So I'm curious, do you picnic periodically at the table? Would you have a bromine sandwich or a phosphorus soda? Let's talk about the periodic table. It hasn't always been around. The mid 1800s is when we had about 70 discovered elements, and they needed a way to organize these elements and have them, be laid out so that we could see them. And so Dmitri Mendeleev, here's another scientist that you need to know his contribution, listed these elements in columns of increasing atomic mass, which is different from how it is now, so pay close attention. The columns were constructed so that similar elements were side by side. And so what you ended up with was something that looked a bit like this, okay? And you can see there are some elements that are kind of in the same general area, like helium and hydrogen. Helium and hydrogen are over here. Helium really is now over here. But in actuality, it could be in two places in the modern periodic table. We got fluorine and chlorine near each other, okay? So the original periodic table, again, was organized by increasing atomic mass. So you can see up at the top here, it went 7, 9, 11, 12, 14, 16, 19, and so on. And then a new series, they called it. So in 1913, Robert Moseley created today's periodic table. So Mendeleev and Moseley both start with an M, so be really careful. Mendeleev created the first periodic table organized by increasing atomic mass, and Moseley created the modern periodic table organized by increasing atomic number rather than by atomic mass. And we all know what atomic number is now, right? We've studied that. So you know what the modern periodic table looks like. It's organized by increasing atomic number. So it starts with 1 up here in the top left-hand corner and goes all the way down to element number 110, which at this point we actually have a name for. And you can find the most updated modern periodic table online. But you can see in this one, they're kind of organized by color. There's different groups on the periodic table that we're going to be looking at later. But let's talk about the periodic table and how it's organized. So a row on the periodic table is called a period, hence the name periodic. When something's periodic, it repeats over and over. And the columns are called groups or families. And so when it's organized this way, it follows periodic law. The same thing happens every row, okay? So that means that in the same column, the elements share similar chemical and physical properties, which is why fluorine, chlorine, bromine, those are all in the same column. They have the same type of chemical properties. They're gases, they're poisonous gases. And let's face it, families share similar properties. That's all there is to it. I know you don't want to admit it, but one of these days you are going to turn into your mother or your father. That's just the fact of life. I turned into my dad, and it's the worst thing ever, but there's nothing I can do about it, okay? And I know you're thinking, wow, he must be a really cranky old man. And you're right, he is, and now I am too. So let's take a look at a quick video that will show you how some of these groups, when they're organized and they're a group up and down, how they share similar chemical properties. It's a very special group over on the left-hand side of the periodic table called the alkali metals. So let's take a look at how those are all related, how they share similar characteristics.
Whether you've left school or you're still at school, you can appreciate the sheer fun and mayhem that chemistry can be. There's so much to it. Bunsen burners, mixing chemicals. Very nice. Now, you may have been allowed to mix very small amounts of lithium with water. You may, if with a responsible adult, have mixed H2O with sodium. And you may, under very strict scientific control, have witnessed potassium mixed with water. But the odds are, if you have, it will only ever have been on one of those rubbish science videos. There you go, mate, present.
Oh, thank you very much.
These next two are the dog's nuts of the periodic table. They are, if you like, the king and queen of alkali metals. Mix these babies with water, stand well back, and watch the mayhem. And that's just what we're going to do. Mr. Tickle, bring on the rubidium.
Here it is.
Is that it?
Well, it might not look like much, Richard, but it's a highly reactive metal. It's sealed in this glass tube under argon atmosphere conditions, just for safety.
Right, so what's going to happen when you drop that in the water?
Well, imagine, if you will, letting off a hand grenade in a bathtub.
Righto, I'm off. Have that.
Okay.
Good luck. Okay, Tickle. Drop the rubidium in the water.
Stand back, everybody. This one's going to be bad.
2 grams of rubidium will only react when our specially designed vial dissolves in the water, which gives John a few crucial seconds to get into our safety zone. Yes!
Wow.
That is more like it. Only on Brainiac do you get that kind of science. But I believe we can go one better. There is one more alkali metal we can legally use.
Yes, Richard, cesium, the emperor of alkali metals, particularly nasty, could go off at any time.
And that's it.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant. I like it already. Now, what's that going to do when it hits the water?
Imagine a depth charge in a bathtub.
Fair enough, mate. I'll leave you to it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, John. Go for it.
Warning, 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 extreme danger, clear the area.
As our cesium sinks in the water, the rapid generation of hydrogen gas should produce quite an explosion. And it does. Magnificent. And I think that concludes today's experiment. There is, I should say, one more, even more reactive metal, francium. But for some reason, they wouldn't let us have any of that. Still, there you go. Today's lesson.
Never mixed alkali metals with water.
So never mix alkali metals with water. Well, that rule doesn't apply to us, and we'll go ahead and try that tomorrow in class. Did you hear the funny saying in that video about something that was really ultra cool? See if you can go back and watch it again and see if you can pick it up, and I'll ask you tomorrow in class. We can talk about that too. It's pretty funny. Great dividing line on the periodic table is this idea of the staircase, okay? And it's over on the right hand side, and it goes down from boron all the way down to polonium. And the elements that are to the left of the staircase, everything to the left of the staircase, are metals, and all of them are solid except which one? Do you know? If you said mercury, you are correct. Okay, mercury is the correct answer. That's a liquid at room temperature. Everything to the right of the staircase over here, these are all the nonmetals. Okay, all of the nonmetals. And things that are touching the staircase, those are called the metalloids or the semi-metals. Okay, you can use either name, metalloids or semi-metals. With the exception of one element in particular, you can see here that it's not shaded. Okay, aluminum is not a metalloid, it is still a metal. Okay, but everything else that's touching with at least one side on the staircase, those are metalloids, and they share properties with metals and nonmetals. You know how metals are shiny and usually they're flexible, bendable. You can hammer them out into sheets. Things on the right hand side are usually gases at room temperature, or they're very brittle, crystals, things like that. Okay. So, but when you come in tomorrow, I'm going to be checking as part of your homework the answers to all of these things. And you can use your book. Chapter 7 will help you find the name for all of these different groups. They have special names that you're going to need to know.